Hello everybody, Travis here with Destination Great Lakes. You may recall a couple weeks ago we made videos about why we're leaving Apple. You may be wondering, why Linux? Stay tuned to find out. Why Linux instead of Windows or Mac? If you haven't already seen the Destination Linux We're Leaving Apple video, I'll link to it down below. It does a really good job of explaining why we're leaving Mac and Apple. But now I want to tell you why we're choosing Linux. Let's get started, shall we? Alright, so why Linux? First of all, Linux is free and open source, and that means something to me. First of all, it's free. There's no monetary cost. It's free as in it doesn't cost anything. So that is kind of important, especially when you think of the cost of software today. Yes, I understand that Microsoft has dropped their prices significantly, but they're still pretty expensive. And then when you add in the cost of a lot of the other things out there like Microsoft Office and all the other software you need in order to make Windows usable, it gets expensive in a hurry. Now, I understand that there is paid for software for Linux, but there's also a lot of really, really good free alternatives that will meet my needs. So free as in it doesn't cost anything would be a huge draw as to why Linux. The other reason that falls into free is freedom, as in I am free to look at the source code, modify it, and redistribute it. Why would I do that? Well, say there's a piece of software that I think is really good, but it just needs a little tweak to be perfect. I am free to download the source code for that program, look at it, and make changes to it in order to have that software do what I need it to do. And on top of that, I can then redistribute it so that other people may be able to benefit from my changes. This open nature of the source code also increases security because there's a huge community of people that are able to look at that source code and go, wait a minute, that's a hole, and fix it before it even becomes a problem. This results in fewer viruses, less malware, etc., etc. So you may be sitting there thinking, wait a minute, if the source code is easily viewable, readily available, wouldn't that decrease security? Because now the bad guys can look at the source code and find the hole. And I could see where that would come in. But the reality is, when you look at the code, you've got one bad guy looking at the code. You got countless others looking at it from the standpoint of fixing the holes. So it's a lot more responsive to security flaws. And that really does help when it comes to ensuring that the system is secure and stable. Ease of maintenance. This has to be one of my biggest complaints when it comes to Mac and Windows is I have to go multiple places to keep the software updated. For example, Firefox, not available in the App Store. I have to download it from a website and install it, and when I need to update it, I have to go to Firefox to update it. Same with Chrome, Adobe Acrobat, all of that stuff. There is no unified package manager that handles all of the updates. But for the most part, with Linux, there are package managers that when I want to install a program, I go into that package manager and I find Kdenlive, DaVinci Resolve, whatever, and I click it and I hit install. And then later on, when I go into that system to update it, if there's an update available for a piece of software that I've manually installed through the package manager, it updates it. So I don't have to go and update it by hand. And this actually also adds to the security of the system because now security flaws in the software that I'm using that could affect the whole system are getting plugged automatically. Customization. I don't know about you, but I don't live in an off-the-rack world. I tweak everything I own. I've tweaked my Mac computers, I've tweaked my Suburban, I've tweaked our camper. And I can do that same thing with Linux. Yes, I said I tweaked my Mac, but the tweaks available, the customizations available to a Mac are limited, which means that I can't really do everything I want to do to make it my own. Whereas with Windows, it's the same. I mean, there's a few more tweaks you can make because Windows is a better known platform and more people are developing for it. But again, I'm still really limited, especially when it comes to Linux, or compared to Linux, I should say. Because with Linux, there's numerous desktop environments. Do I want a Windows 3.1 based system or something that looks like it? I can have that. Do I want Windows 95, XP, 10? Do I want to look like a Mac? Maybe I don't want a desktop environment at all and I just want to have Windows. There's so many options to make the computer mine and make it fit my workflow that the customization is almost endless. And because of that, it increases efficiency in terms of productivity and workflow because now I'm working with a system that's mine, that I've made to be the way I want it to be, to match my workflow. So I'm working on something that I have total control on to make it fit my needs versus the needs of some developer or what some developer assumed were my needs. And I've seen several videos of people that have made the switch to Linux that they've said for the first 2 months it was horrible because they were used to thinking in that other manner where they had to conform to what the operating system and software wanted. And once they broke out of that mindset and said, no, I can make this the way I want it to be, they said it completely changed their way of thinking about things. So it's totally possible to make Linux what you need it to be. I like to tinker, and when I tinker, I learn. So Linux to me is a very educational operating system because there's always a way that I can adjust it or change it to improve what I'm seeing and what I'm doing. And because of that, I'm more aware of how my computer works. So there's different distributions aimed at specific users. So if you're a complete new person, never have seen Linux in your life, there's a distribution that you would swear is Windows because it works like it. And it's really easy to get started. But you still get all those benefits. As you learn, you can customize it. You've got the unified package manager. You've got the open source software and the security that you don't even realize is there. So there's distributions that are aimed at the new user. There's distributions aimed at the enterprise user where you can actually pay for support and you pay for the product. And they're unbelievably stable. And then you've got distributions that are aimed at the tinkerers and the power users. Heck, if you don't want to use a specific distribution, you don't have to. You can build your complete own system from scratch using a process called Linux from scratch. So you get to make it the way you want, and you learn as you go. And that makes it just that much better for you because, as I've said a couple of times and a couple slides back, you make it your own. You make it be what you need it to be. And because of that, you're learning as you go. And it's so powerful in terms of what that gives you as a user. And it's really hard to explain if you haven't seen it for yourself. So I guess if you've never played with Linux before and you have no idea what I'm talking about, maybe fire up a virtual machine, which is what I'm doing right now, and try a couple of distributions. I've used Linux before. I've used it as a daily driver before we made our switch to Apple about 10 years ago. And I do miss it. So I'm very excited to be going back. And because things have changed so much in the last decade, while I'm a huge Arch fan, I may settle on something else as I get going because I may find that maybe Debian is going to meet my needs better. Maybe my dislike of Ubuntu is misplaced, and maybe I need to look at a Ubuntu derivative like Pop! OS. I'm spinning up virtual machines right now, learning about these different distributions before we even have the computer built. Finally, support. You're probably sitting there thinking, free software, volunteers, the support's got to be horrible, because who do I call? It's not like Arch Linux has a 1-800 number that I could talk to an engineer. Not true. Their support forums are amazing. You can talk to the people that have helped write the software. You can talk to the power users who have not only probably encountered your problem, but fixed it. And they will help you fix it. So those forums of all your distributions are a huge resource. Not only to help you fix problems, but to learn how to make your system yours. There's the Arch Wiki and the Gentoo Wiki. Both amazing resources that I've used to fix non-Arch and Gentoo based issues in the past, because the detail and the information in those wikis is just that good. And some of these distributions, such as Red Hat and SUSE, do actually offer paid versions. So if you're in an enterprise environment and your boss says, you know what, we're not going to do this because there's no paid support, there is. You just got to go find it. And in the case of some of these companies, it's really easy to get. So Linux has really good support, mainly through the community, but also through some paid options as well. So that's why I'm looking at Linux as a whole, as opposed to Windows or Mac. In our coming videos in this series, you're going to see me playing in virtual machines that I spin up of different distributions like Debian, Ubuntu, Pop! OS, which are all kind of related, and Fedora and CentOS and Arch and Arco and Manjaro, and maybe some others. If you guys have a suggestion, send it down below. And I'm going to be giving you my impressions and what I like and don't like about each of these distributions, so that when the time comes to build the machine, I have settled on the distribution that I want to use, and I don't have to hop around to different distributions to figure out what I want to have on the new machine, because I'll have already made that decision. So if you like this video, make sure you click that thumbs up. If you dislike it, click the thumbs down. Either way, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Should I try a specific distribution? Is there a piece of software that I need to look at? Click the subscribe button, ring the bell, and we'll see you guys at our next destination. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.